I've had three near-death experiences. I've had out-of-body experiences, buku. I've had rainbow body experiences. I've had bilocation, having two-body experiences. You know what? If you had to sum up what a near-death experience was, it's basically experiencing the love of the divine. I started hearing the sound of angels singing. I mean, it was a choir of angels. It was just really beautiful.
Hello, Kirsty Salisbury here, host of the Let's Talk Near Death podcast. Welcome back, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. Today I'm chatting with Reverend Bill McDonald, who has had 3 near-death experiences, and he's also had, I believe, around what he says, maybe 100 other personal experiences, spiritual experiences. There's a lot of topics there. There's a lot of things that we can discuss, and I'm looking forward to getting into our conversation today. So Reverend Bill McDonald, first of all, welcome along to the show. You've had 3 near-death experiences. Where do we start with your story?
Well, where do you start? I mean, I started before the womb, obviously. And being an Irishman, you never ask an Irishman a story unless you got a couple of months on your calendar, because Irishman never knows when to stop talking. But I can say that when I was born in San Francisco, California, for historical records. I was born in San Francisco, and yes, I'm old. I was born in 1946, so do a little work there. That's 77 years already. And but I started off, and I always believe I was always on the spiritual journey. I mean, we're all on the spiritual journey, but I was on a spiritual journey where I was in charge of that. I knew I was on that journey. It was an active pursuit. Even as a child, I was meditating, making up my own forms of meditation at 18 months, 2 years, 3 years old. I'm doing my own stuff and making up breathing things and looking at the spiritual eye and having out-of-body experiences, having encounters with aliens. In fact, me and my 2 sisters, we had an abduction in 1950 that all 3 of us experienced and never talked about. That was 1950. We never talked about it to 2004 or 5. Wow. We went 50 some years before we even mentioned it again, but we all had the same memories. So it's interesting. So all that is kind of the predecessor, because people say, oh, you had a near-death experience. How'd that change you? And I'm going, no, I've had 3 near-death experiences. I've had out-of-body experiences, buku. I've had rainbow body experiences. I've had bilocation, having 2-body experiences. I've had time warps. I've had drifts into the past and the future. I've had everything you could think of in the psychic, mystical journey of life. So to pinpoint something, what changed my life? No, I've always been on this trajectory. And it's just a matter of 3 points in my life, I had something uniquely different happen. But at multiple points every year, I have spiritual events happen. It's continually. So, but let's, for the sake of this broadcast, people tuning in, they probably want to hear about near-death experiences. And I believe that the worldwide hunger that I sense out there for these stories, because they are more popular now than they've ever been.
Yeah.
Videos are available, stories are available, books. It wasn't like that 30, 40 years ago. But with all that's happening in the world, people are looking for that ultimate, there's got to be something else. When I die, is there anything more? Why are we here? What's the purpose? Everybody's looking for that answer. And near-death experiences kind of take and compress a lot of these questions and open up that journey for people to go, why? And they want to believe. I mean, most people listen to a story, they really want to believe you. Like when I tell them stories about UFOs or I tell them something else, it's kind of like, well, But when you tell them a story about a near-death experience, they're with you on that experience. And I try to tell people, you don't have to have a near-death experience on your journey to improve, to become an angel, to become enlightened. In fact, death is not how you become enlightened. Having death and coming back basically just tells you, oh, this thing doesn't end. It's all about consciousness. The body may expire, but the consciousness remains. So basically, near-death experiences is a testimony to the foreverness, the eternity of consciousness and spirit. And so that's what makes them the fruit on the tree that everybody wants to pick, because it's like, wow, I want to believe that. And then they meet people that don't just believe it. There's people that know it because they've experienced it. So we'll talk about three. And starting when I was 8.5 years old, I had never been away from home before. I was, in the family there, but I was kind of neglected. And I got sick, and I was going to school, and I had the mumps, and I still kept going to school, and then I got strep throat, and then I got pneumonia in both lungs, and then I got pleurisy, us filling up with fluids, and then I got a couple more diseases, and then it cascaded down, and I ended up having Bright's disease of the kidneys, and I was literally meaning deathly sick. Yes, deathly sick. The school finally looked at me and said, send this kid home, and the school told my parents, hey, take this kid to a doctor. He's dying, right? So the doctor comes, and this is the old days in America. Maybe it's in New Zealand and Australia and the rest of the world, they still do this. But in America, nobody does a home visit. Doctors don't come to your houses anymore. Yeah. But back then, you could call the doctor, and he'd get in his car, and he'd travel out in the country, and he'd come visit you, right? Doctor comes out, looks at me, and goes, it's almost too late. Get this guy transported to the hospital immediately. So I go to the hospital. I'm 8.5 years old, and they strap me on a gurney. Got my mother and my stepfather standing there watching, and they're telling them, and I'm hearing this. It's not even that far away from me, and they're going, "Yeah, you probably brought him in too late. It's we're gonna do the best we can, but we don't think he's going to make it a day or two." And they go, "Okay," and they leave. They leave. If they kicked him out or what, it was the old day. But next thing you know, I'm being wheeled down the hall, totally alone, with no family members waiting in a waiting room to see how things turn out, and that was the beginning. That was night one of almost 1 year in the San Jose County Hospital as a ward of the hospital of the county. 1 year. No telephone. No telephone, not even a landline. There was no cell phone, as I try to tell my grandson. Yeah. I tell my grandson, I go, Johnny, don't come to me complaining you can't find your phone. I never told my parents I couldn't find my phone. I just had to follow the line,
no
right?
Phones.
Yeah, come on. So no form of entertainment, no radio, no record player, no toys, no newspapers, no magazines, no books. I had visitors once a week, usually on Sunday for about 10, 15 minutes. That was it. Oh. Most time I was by myself, wasn't too many people with me ever, sometimes totally alone for weeks. In a room, they come wake me up in the morning, because of changing the shift, and they got to, get to clean the sheets and all that. But I was total bed rest, wasn't allowed to go. I couldn't walk around the hospital. I couldn't walk to the restroom. The only time I got to go anywhere was for a procedure done. They come in, take your blood, they feed you. That's it. No real conversations with anybody for a year. We'll talk about that. That was a blessing. All right. First night in the hospital. My lungs are filling up. I can barely breathe. Just filled up with fluid. That's the first thing they got to get. The kidneys is one problem. They got the lungs. They got the rest of stuff. And they got me in an isolation ward away from everybody. Everybody's got, like COVID times back then, right? 1950s. They all got masks on. They all got the hoods and they got the hats on and they got the gloves because, I'm contaminated. They don't want to get my disease or whatever it is. So I go in there and it's about 9:00 at night and they sit me down and they take these big, huge needles. Now, if you're a little kid, every needle looks huge, but I'm saying huge. I would say they're huge now. I mean, they were like this,
That's enormous.
Because they stab it in the back, it's going into the lungs, and it's fat. So it's sucking out what looked like applesauce. It was just like this fluids coming out. It was just, I'm looking at these jars being filled up, and I'm going, wow. So anyway, but I'm sitting there, and they're doing all this stuff to me, and I'm wide awake. No anesthesia, no nothing. They're just pumping my lungs out. No local, no nothing, right? So get through, and I can see they're not they don't have a lot of high hopes anything is going to happen, but at least getting some room in my lungs so I can breathe. And then they go, there's a bed, kid, get in it. I mean, not even, Bill, are you okay? Nobody holds your hands. This is the old days. It was hardcore. I mean, you went to the hospital as a kid. There was no clowns. There was no anybody, going around the hospital and giving you candy. Are you okay? No, there was nothing. It was just, boom, you're done, get in the bed. And then they turned off the lights on me. And I'm in a room for the first time by myself in my entire life, 8.5 years. And total darkness. And of course, you're in a dark room by yourself. You don't know what's anything that's going on. Mm. And it was a great, great pain, very uncomfortable, but I was still having a very difficult time breathing. Pretty soon I didn't have a difficult time at all breathing. I wasn't breathing. So it went from, really, chest pains and everything to comfort. I'm going, oh, that's okay. I feel comfortable, right? And then I noticed that my body is feeling, and I mean this two ways, was feeling light, like not much weight, but it was also feeling light, L-I-G-H-T, like light around us, right? Felt like light within me and light around me. It was, you could say it was enlightening, but there was light there, right? So I'm having these feelings, and I feel like lighter than a feather. I'm kind of like, I'm above. I'm sensing I'm above my body. Now, in spirit form, it's not like I got a body and I turn around, I look down, because I didn't have to turn around. I just thought. I just thought. I looked down, and my body down below is this wretched little 8.5-year-old kid that's, laying there dead. No pulse, no breathing, no nothing else. And I'm going, this is an 8.5. At 8.5 years old, I'm saying, I feel sorry for that body. That's not me. I'm the observer. I'm this consciousness. I may not use that term at 8.5 years old, but that's what I was thinking. That's what I was feeling. I knew there was a difference between physical material body and this consciousness, because I didn't expire. There was no time where I wasn't. There was no time that I wasn't. There was here and there, but there wasn't even a transition. It was just a smooth, like water flowing through through a stream. It just flowed. So I'm looking down there and I'm feeling sorry for that body and realizing how terrible the body was, and it was uncomfortable, but I was feeling great. And I was feeling a great sense of love. I think everybody that you've interviewed from your videos that I've watched, everybody that had an experience, I don't think one of them didn't mention the fact that they felt loved.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think you're right.
That's it. It's, you know what, if you had to sum up what a near-death experience was, it's basically experiencing the love of the divine. Yeah. And how you go about that, 100 people have 100 different ways of doing that, but ultimately they all indivisible by one thing: love. If you take love and divide it into all this experience, it comes out to this cosmic conscious hug. And I mean, it's a hug. It's like, and I expressed this before, and it's a good term. I call it my Italian grandmother equivalent. So one Italian grandmother equals one Italian grandma. She, they pinches the cheeks, they hug you and all that kind of stuff. And they love you, right? Imagine 1 million Italian grandmothers all hugging you.
Yeah, it's a lot of love.
And then you get an idea that, oh, somebody up here loves me, right? And then you realize there ain't no up here, down there. It's all within. And the hugs they're cosmic. But you feel it. You're not lonely. You're not in pain. You're not uncomfortable. You're not worried about anything. And you're just blissful. Not a lot of thoughts going on. Not, I wonder what somebody's doing. What are my aunts doing? What are my kids' sisters doing? Nothing. It's just enjoy. It's just being a part of this cosmic hug. That's all. So that's going on. And then I noticed that as I look around the room, there's like clouds starting to form. There's just like building clouds all the way around. All the walls turned into like a theater, wraparound theater, like I'm gonna watch a movie all the way around kind of thing.
Mm.
And the room is getting lighter and lighter. And then I see this unveiling of, I'll use old technology, old veiling of a videotape, it's like analyze. It's just things are unfolding. And I noticed things were unfolding in the future tense, things that hadn't happened. But I knew that these things were unfolding in the future, even though I knew that the future and the past and the now was all present. So there wasn't like this big stretch about, well, it's really in the future 50 years, or this is, no, it's like, it's all happening now someplace, That's like, was that we got an American singer that sings all these songs, and it's always 5 o'clock someplace in the world, there's happy hour. So anyway, there's always this unfolding. Anyway, so being 8.5 when you die, if you had a life review, like a lot of people have a life review, what would an 8.5-year-old review on his life? You pulled the puppy's tail, you made your sister cry, I mean, so there was no past life review. But what's unique about this experience is because not many people do, but not many people have a future review. I mean, you're looking forward. And I knew from watching this, all these sequences of events, saw who I was going to marry. I saw where I was going to live. I saw my children, saw myself in the war, Vietnam War. I saw myself sitting in a helicopter in Vietnam. I saw myself getting shot at, blown up, all crashing in a helicopter. Saw all kinds of stuff. Saw President Kennedy's assassination. I had no idea who the heck he was, 8.5 years old, but I knew that guy was the president of the United States. I knew that he was getting shot. Saw the whole thing play out. And when I was in high school, I later told school principal and other people 2 or 3 weeks before he was killed, that was going to happen in Dallas, Texas, because I saw it already. Now, our government, my government, tells me that one man shot him, Harvey Lee Oswald, and anything else is a conspiracy theory. So I'm just telling you what I saw in my real-time visions. There was more than one person, but so therefore my vision of the future could have been flawed. I mean, how can I argue against government commission that says there was only one guy shot him? So I let it go at that. I regress. Anyway, so I'm watching all this stuff unfold, and I realize that if that's my future, that means I got to go back down to this body because I have a future. There's no escape plan here. It's not like somebody's going to say, hey, come with us, kid. No, there was nobody saying, come with us. It was just, look, here's what you got to endure. Without any words, I just do. Here's what you got to endure. You better take care of yourself because some things are going on out there, right? And at the time I'm watching this, there was 2 numbers that kept flying around between these clouds. There was a 29, and then the 2 would flip upside down and become a 59. 29, 59. Some people later go, oh, that's Saturn. When you go through Saturn, you have this spiritual change in your life, 29. And then when you get to be about 58.5 or so, then you have the other change. And I didn't know anything about that. But to me, it felt like more danger points. And I kind of felt that from watching that, if I don't take good care of my body, 29 might be a time I exit. And if I take better care of my body, maybe 59, just before 59 is probably another exit point. Maybe I should look at that. Anyway, so this experience went on, and it gets deeper, and there's more involved. But we're going to progress the other 2 because the third one gets to the point where it's even more interesting than this. But bottom line was, when I finished this experience and I had to go back into, and I mean back into the body, it was like from weightless like a feather to boom, and then from being hugged and comfortable all of a sudden to chest pains, kidney pains, back pains, feeling terrible physically. It was like instantaneous, hard to breathe and everything else. And I woke up, and I didn't know if it was a 5-minute experience or 5 hours. Have no clue. Lights were out, totally dark, no clocks.
Mm.
And eventually I went to bed, woke up, and the next day at the shift change, and I was still alive. But that was at 8.5 years old. I got out of the hospital at 9.5 years old. I was there for Christmas, Thanksgiving. I don't know if you have that in New Zealand.
Yeah,
Thanksgiving,
aware of it.
and Christmas and New Year's and my birthday and July 4th. I mean, everything, right? I was
Yeah, whole year.
all by myself, spent hours and hours from 6 o'clock in the morning when they'd wake me up. They'd wake you up. You're sleeping. They'd wake you up because of the shift change. And then at 9 o'clock at night, they come in and turn off the lights. So I was awake from 6 to 9, laying in bed with zero entertainment.
Mm.
Now, if you read any stories about people been prisoners of war or they've been in solitary confinement in jail or whatever, you lock somebody up without contact with other people, no conversations, no nothing to do, no stimuli. One or two things happen. Either they go stark raising crazy
Mm.
or they become enlightened. I mean,
Mm.
because you got all that time. So I laid there and I go, I got all this time and I got a great imagination. And I traveled everywhere in the world in my mind. And I made up made up my own meditations, more of them. And I tried different techniques and things. I made one up where I thought it was totally made up, and because I had this whole thing where I was breathing through my navel and I was bringing the energy up and around my spine, and I was doing all these weird things, and I was holding my eyes in so they would focus here, and then I'd cover my ears so I wouldn't. I was doing crazy stuff like that. Then I find out, like when I went to India 50 years later, and I meet a Tibetan monk up in the Himalayan mountains. Didn't speak English. Spent 3 days with him. I didn't speak Tibetan. He didn't speak English. And he taught me how to do these techniques that I made up without me asking him. He just goes, well, he explains with all his hands and everything. And I'm going, I go, wait a minute. I made this stuff up. Apparently it was all Tibetan stuff. So I thought, oh, well, this is interesting, right? Okay. So anyway, so when I got out of the hospital, I first week home, I started hearing sound of angels singing. I mean, it was a choir of angels. It was just really beautiful. It sounded like all women choir. It was just really beautiful.
Mm.
My mother heard it and I heard it. And we went out, explored the whole house. You know, no radio, no television, no record players. Went outside. Wherever we went, a block away in each direction, we still heard the same volume.
Wow.
This choir of women singing. So finally, we just said, okay, that's what it is, right? So the next day, I had a couple dogs. The one dog I had got run over by a car in front of our house.
Mm.
40 miles an hour, car hit it, boom. I run out there and this dog is laying in the street. He's got his tongue hanging out, blood coming down the eyes, blood coming out of the corner of his mouth, blood's coming out of the ears, blood coming out of the nose. He's kind of semi-flat and he's just, he's, and the poor guy that hit him is going, I'm sorry, kid. I'm sorry, kid. I just picked up the dog. I took it in the house and I had so much love for that dog. And then I practiced something that I learned while I was laying in the hospital bed. And that was to keep my body in shape and practicing something I learned from Self-Realization Fellowship, which is Paramahansa Yogananda's organization. It's worldwide. It's even in Australia and New Zealand and, of course, India and America. But they taught these exercises where you tense your body up and you bring energy in. And you do this so you can meditate, because you got the energy to meditate. Well, I thought at the time, I go, well, if I'm not expending it on meditation, I can recharge my body and I got that energy for whatever I want, healing. So I brought the dog in, and with the power of love, unconditional love for that dog, and then practicing this technique that I had learned laying in a hospital bed, I put my hands on this dog and I just give, it was like little electric jolts coming out of it was like static electricity coming out of my fingertips. It was like, clear, and the dog jumps up, runs around, lived the rest of his days until my stepdad put him away. But there was nothing wrong from that point. He was good to go. So I go, okay. Love heals. Love and energy heals. which leads me into what I'm doing today with these healing workshops around the world. But that's another topic. That's another day, another topic. Anyway, so when I got home, I told my mother, I says, I'm not eating meat anymore. I want to be a vegetarian. I was the only one in the family. So there was nothing special made for me. So I ended up eating a lot of pasta and a lot of, carbs. And I mean, in the 1950s in America, around the world, being a vegetarian was very difficult. It's hard now, but there's alternatives. There's nothing in a store, so it was, but I knew I had to change my diet because I had that vision forward. I knew I had to change my diet. That's all I came out with. I didn't know why exactly, but I had to change my diet. I had to make sure I didn't do drug and alcohol, make sure I take care of the body. So one of the things that happened while I was laying in a hospital bed, I was reflecting on the one book I'd read before I went in there, Autobiography of a Yogi. If you can imagine a kid, 8-year-old kid reading Autobiography of a Yogi by Paranormal Yogananda, it's a pretty thick and hard book to read. But I focused on a chapter on Babaji and Babaji's cave. And that's where this great master, this avatar, this savior, another subject we could talk about Babaji another time, but this great being came down to one of his disciples, Larry Masha, and reintroduced Kriya Yoga to the world. It's a meditation technique, a Kundalini energy moving technique, where you breathe through the spine and you got light and energy and heat, cold. But apparently that was taught to all the ancient rishis, and it was taught to Jesus and Krishna and Buddha. That's how that all came about. And I thought at the time, I'm 8.5 years old, laying in that bed, and I'm going, in my imagination, I'm in Babaji's cave. And I knew I'm going to go to Babaji's cave. That's the only desire, the only ambition I had. I'm going to Babaji's cave someday. Okay. So 50 years later, at the end of all these knowings, all these instant deja vus, I know what's going to happen now type thing. It's run. So I go, wait a minute, we're at the end of my deja. We're now 50 years forward. And I find myself taking a journey to India with a friend, journey to India in search of Babaji's cave. We didn't know exactly where it was at. We had to flop around. We rented a driver and a car and a vehicle, and we finally ended up finding an ashram that took care of this cave. Actually, they know where it's at, and it's guarded and it's protected and everything. I get there and there's religious holidays and things going on, so nobody's available. There's a Swami there, and everybody else is gone. And he goes, "You can't go visit there because I got nobody to take you there. You can't find it on your own." And I said, "No." I said, "I've dreamt about this for 50 years. I've seen it in my visions. I'm going." "Oh, I got nobody to take you there." So finally he goes, "Okay, if you really want to go there, here's the keys." Because they lock up the cave. Unfortunately, got to lock it up. Even in India, sacred places, people come in, they chip the rocks away inside the cave to sell. I mean, come on, souvenirs. So he gives these crazy directions. I mean, they're really crazy directions. Go down. I mean, it was like nobody could follow them. But I said I'd find it. End up, we left. We got on the road early in the morning. We started the hike up this mountain. Got lost. 4 hours going uphill. We didn't know where we were at. I was sick. I was having all kinds of medical problems and heart problem. Heart was really beating terrible. And it was a bad journey. But we finally get to the top. We discover where the cave's at. I go inside the cave. I'm really kind of leaving a lot of minute details away because the story after this is even more important. The bottom line was we get inside the cave, and I'm meditating, and I pull out this. I have a whole bunch of typed, names on a piece of paper, both sides, smallest edition I could do on 4 pages. And of everybody I ever knew, everybody teachers, army buddies, friends, enemies, bosses, neighbors, family, anybody that I could remember. And some people didn't even have a name. It just said, Hitchhiker, 1990, some kid I picked up. Seriously, exactly what I had on there. I figured, in my heart, I knew who they are. In my mind, I knew who they are. And I figured, Babaji's got their name. God's got their name. I don't have to have, I just have to, this guy, foster child from 1994. It's just stuff like that I'd write down on there, right? God would sort it out. So I took these names and I went in the cave. I mentally read all the names. Took me a while. And I offered them to Babaji to bless them all. Some of them were enemies. Some of the people were bad. Some were the people that I shot at in Vietnam that shot at me and tried to kill me. I still wanted them to be blessed. So it was me taking everybody that I could possibly go on this journey with me to get that blessing. It wasn't just enough for me. I wanted for everybody in my life that's touched me in some way, because everybody that touched me needed to be blessed. And that was and then I had a couple things at the end, basically a couple paragraphs, just like everybody that's touched me in some way, bless them, right? It was like, I covered everybody. I mean, I covered everybody. So, and I took that list into the cave, read it, we meditated, to skip forward for a minute. I ended up taking that with me to the Ganges River, Varanasi. And at sunrise on a little boat, I went out on this boat, sun's coming up over the Ganges. It's a little hazy, so you get this beautiful orange and red and yellow, sunrise is just beautiful. Smog makes beautiful sunrises. It really does. It was just beautiful. It was like, and I took the list out just as the sun was coming out, and I mentally read it. And then I held it up and I took a little candle to it, and I burned it down to just my fingers. And then I let it go, and all the ashes ended up in the Ganges, running down. They're all blessed. So I figured that was a good way to dispose of it. Meanwhile, back at the cave. So I'm not feeling physically good at all. We finished the meditation. We get lost going back. I'm standing on a cliff. It's a 30-foot cliff. Straight drop. Not exactly. Straight drop down about 10 feet. There's a little outcropping. And then there's another 10, 12 feet. Then there's another little outcropping of a couple feet. And then it ends up on a boulder, big rock about the size of a huge desk or a Volkswagen car, a Bug, if you know what those are. I think they got them there. The old Volkswagen Bug. It's always big boulder.
I love those.
I land there and I'm laying on my back looking up at the sky. And my heart went on the top of the cliff. When I was looking down at this cliff, it was going boom, boom, and then nothing, right? I go, oh, what a blackout, right? So I tumbled down the hill. Apparently I didn't fall straight. I bounced a couple times, which was a good thing, right? So I'm laying there looking up, and my body was in pain. My body was very painful. And again, there was nothing. I'm going, we've been here before. All right, no pain. I'm feeling loved. I'm feeling light both ways. And I see my friend on top of the cliff, 30 feet up, and I'm looking at him straight across, right? I go, hey, there he is, which, leads me to go, oh. And so then I focused on down below, and I see that body, kind of laying down there, kind of odd shape. And I'm thinking, don't want to be that poor body. Remember, we've been there before, right? But I go, I know now, that is definitely not me. That body is hurting. That body has a heart problem. There's something wrong there. And I was happy. And then I'm going, well, you know what? If this is it, taken me 50 years, but this is it. I've been to Babaji's cave. What the heck? That's good enough, right? I'm on my way back from Babaji's cave. What a good place to die. It's a good day to die, right? I go, this is all right. So I'm kind of doing that and thinking, well, maybe this is an exit. I mean, I'm almost 59. I'm just months away. And I didn't die at 29. So I'm thinking, well, maybe this is, maybe this is it. And then I'm looking's a bad word. My consciousness is focusing down below. And I see this huge cobra. When I say huge, it's only guesswork because he's coming out of grass, 2-foot tall grass, goes across my feet, and then he ends up, and I'm assuming it was he, if there's a snake in the grass, it's usually a guy, right? Anyway, so this snake in the grass, It's on the other side, so I never see the whole thing together. It's just slithering across me. But there's so much love that's awakened in me, not fear, love for this snake.
Mm.
That it's like clear, like the paddles on your chest, right? Clear. Like I got defibrillated spiritually. And all of a sudden I jump up from the rock. I take a breath, heart's pounding, right? I'm good. And I start grabbing the snake, and I'm grabbing the snake, and it's going through my hands. And I'm grabbing the snake. It's like this, right? I mean, I can't get my fingers to touch. I mean, I can't get my fingers all the way around the belly of the snake, just sliding through. I chase it through the grass, and it goes behind a little waterfall. And it was a beautiful thing, and a lot more stuff happened. I ended up coming back and trying to get back to the ashram late, and the guy's closing up. We almost got locked out, and the Swami says, "Well, did you find the cave?" And I go, "Yeah." And I told him the whole story about falling down the cliff and getting sick and everything else. And then some woman goes, "Well, don't you know, mister?" And I go, "Well, what did I know?" She says, "It is said that those that have the most arduous journey have the greatest of blessings." And the Swami just goes, "Yeah, that qualifies." Yeah, he walks away, right? So anyway, so that was near-death experience number 2, but the experience kept giving. That happened like in late October 2004. I'm in India, and I'm staying around. I don't leave India till before Thanksgiving. I'm still in India. A woman after that would have said, "I think I should go check in and get medically checked up," right? I mean, I just survived that. I'm lucky I should go get checked up. Not a guy. Guy goes, "Oh, I survived that. Let's just keep going, right? Let's finish up. I don't want to leave early. I still got my time on my ticket. Let's go, right?" So I hung around and get home Thanksgiving. I still don't go to the doctor. Finally, in December, all of a sudden, right between my eyes there in the spiritual eye, I get this big, huge tumor. I go into the doctor and I go, "Hey, look, all of a sudden I got this tumor there." I mean, it's just like that. Boom, there's this tumor. And the surgeon goes, "Yeah, we got to take that immediately. Did a biopsy. It's cancer." And I go, "Really?" "Yeah, it's cancer." I go, "Well, that's kind of cool." She goes, "What do you mean it's cool?" I said, "I go to India looking for that guru experience, that spiritual experience, and I come back and have cancer removed from my spiritual eye. How cleansing is that? How symbolically poetic is that, right?" They thought I was nuts anyway. So I had that removed. So then we go all December, we go all January. Last of January, I'm having heart problems. And finally in February, I'm collapsing in my garage 6 times. I'm going, maybe I should go check my heart out. Maybe this thing ain't over, right? And I'm not 59 yet. I still got a few weeks, right? So I'm thinking, maybe I should go get checked out. So I tell my wife, I'm gonna go drive over to my Kaiser hospital. It's the hospital I belong to, a group. It's about 7 miles from my house. And I get my pickup truck and grind through all the gears and go down the highway, and it's 15 minutes away, 20 minutes away. I don't pull into the place where the ambulance is at, because it's for ambulances, right? So I go into the parking lot, try to find a parking spot, and of course, ER parking spots there's none. They're all filled up. So I park a couple of parking lots away, walk all the way across this hospital parking lot, get in there. I'm having a heart attack the whole time. It's just going crazy. I get inside there, and there's like 18 people in line, lined up to sign into the ER, right? So I finally get through 18 people, figured a minute each, right? That's 18 minutes at least, right? I get up there, and the first question the lady asked me, right? Not, "Are you breathing? Are you bleeding? Are you having a heart attack? How do you feel?" No, the first question she asked me, this is America. First question she asked, "Do you have insurance with us?"
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
And I go, "Yes." "Oh, well, then take this clipboard." Still didn't ask me what was wrong. "Take this clipboard, go sit over there, fill it out, then get in that line with those 8 people." So I did. So by the time I get through that line with 8 people, and at the bottom of this thing, I had to fill out all this questionnaire. The last question is, "What's wrong with you? Why are you here today?" Right?
Yeah.
And I put down, "I'm having a heart attack." Now, I am having, not had, I'm having a heart attack. So I get up there, and the lady reads the clipboard, this nurse, and she goes, "Yeah," she says, "You were in that line yet? And you're in this line yet? How'd you get it? You drove, you parked, okay, way over there." Yeah, you're having a heart attack. Sure. How long has this been going on? I said, several hours. Yeah, okay, fine. And I'm just calm, relaxed, just like this, no sweat, no nothing, just talking to her. I said, yes, I'm having a heart attack right now. She says, we'll be the judge of that. Sit down. So she takes out her stethoscope, she plugs in there, and she starts listening. She goes, it's like, next thing you know, there's lights, there's bells,
Yeah.
there's carts coming out, they're strapping me to a gurney. She goes, sir, you're having a heart attack. And I
I
go,
know.
that's what I told you. I know that. She says, no, really, you having a heart attack. I said, yes, really. I know I'm having a heart attack. That's why I came in. So anyway, so I finally go in to see the doctor, and he wants full surgery, and he wants quadruple, but he wants to go. So I start moaning and groaning to him. And this is where that 2959 thing, you know.
Mm.
And so I started complaining to him, and I'm complaining to him, and I'm realizing that I'm almost 59 years old, man. This is getting close to the deadline. And here's a side note. Well, I was born 1946, March 16th, and St. Mary's Health Hospital in San Francisco, in case somebody has a trivia question on this. There was somebody else born there about an hour later. Another Irish kid, Paul H. O'Brien Jr., and I'm William H. McDonald Jr., and our mothers were sitting next to each other, in beds, and we were sitting together in bassinets. Well, we didn't know that at the time because I met the guy when I was in the fourth grade in a town 40 miles away. We both had birthday in the classroom at the same time, and teacher asked us a couple of questions. We realized we were born in the same place, and we've known each other all our lives, basically, but we didn't know that till we were, well into school. So, and I just learned that he had died. And I'm thinking, astrology, right? Here's a guy born an hour difference, same location, hour difference.
Mm.
And he smoked and he drank and he didn't take care of his body. And he was, and he ends up, didn't make his 59th birthday. And I go, oh. So I'm there. These thoughts are going through my mind. That's why I'm complaining to the doctor. I said, look, doc, I said, I'm a vegetarian, pretty much 5-6 decades here. And I don't drink booze. I don't do drugs of any kind. I don't do nicotine. I don't do caffeine. I don't do sugar. I don't add salt to nothing. I meditate. I exercise.
Mm.
And then he looks at me and he says, from looking at your medical history and everything, Mr. McDonald, he says, I would have guessed you would have been dead at 29 had you not done that. He says, and now you're 59 in a couple of weeks. I'm going, 29, 59. So I go, oh. So then I go, what's this, sir? When are we going to take care of this? Well, okay, let's schedule it. Let's get, so it was like, so I still wasn't easy going into the process, but everything turned out okay. Spoilers alert, I didn't die there. I'm still here. So this is the real me. Anyway, so this now leads us to door number 3. What's behind door number 3? Door number 3. Third near-death experience. But to get there, to really understand the impact of this one, because this one's more unusual. I've ever heard anybody's that's anything like this. Either I am totally an imaginative, delusional character that's in his own little world and it's my own little play, or this was really, really something unusual for anybody in any time, any place. This was just, it starts off, I go back to India multiple times, and I'd stay several months at a time, and I'd stay at an ashram. And I'm at this ashram, and the guru at this ashram comes up to me one day and he goes, yeah, I want you to go into Pune, this big city that's there, we're out in the jungle. It's this ashram. He says, I want you to go there. And he says, I want you to have a naughty palm leaf reading. And I'm thinking, what in the heck is that? I'm thinking naughty, I'm a naughty boy, and naughty palm. I'm thinking palm, he's gonna read my palms. I mean, what is this? I said, I don't need no fortune teller. He said, no, it's not fortune telling. He says, it's a palm leaf reading. I go, what do you mean? He says, well, they cut these palm leaves, they cut all the fronds off. So you got a big piece of wood, and a scribe will write on there, then they shellac it. And these things were done 2,500 to 5,000 years ago, that the original rishis, starting with Augusta, and then these guys would channel people from the future from 5,000 years ago, the future going forward, that when they needed to know these things, they would come and they'd find them in India. And they would get this information, this knowledge they need for that lifetime. So I'm thinking, oh, come on, what's the odds on that? And he says, I'm going to send you to town and they'll look for your bundle. Okay, great. So what he didn't say was, they got to give a fingerprint. That's how they find them, a fingerprint. And there's millions of these things they wrote. And they're not just in the town of Pune. They took the stack and they broke it up because they didn't want them to get lost or stolen or burned down. They didn't want to lose them all. So they spread them out to about 15, 16, 17, 18 different cities. I don't know if anybody even knows exactly all the places they're at, but they're like in Pune and Delhi and Mumbai and Chennai and Lucknow and a few other places you can find these things. So if you go into Lucknow or you go into Delhi, but it's in Chennai, southern India, or if it's in Mumbai or if it's in Pune, it could be 6 months or a year before they find it. So, I mean, there's a lot of libraries to go looking. I didn't know any of that history. I go in and figure I get fingerprinted, I sit down, and I find out now that some people take 6 months to find their thing, or some people, they never find their leaf, wasn't destined to be. But I sit down and figure if the guru said go down there and do it, I'm going to wait. So I go down there, I wait, give my fingerprint, I wait. I just sit there and I go, okay, well, give it to me. So a few hours later, they come down, they bring these bundles, and the whole thing with the naughty leaf palm reading, you don't tell them anything. You just say yes or no. They ask you a series of questions. And he knows that's not your leaf, that's not your future, that's not your past, it's not who you are. Even if it's close, like one no, it's not it. So he goes through 6 of these, comes to the 7th of these leaves. It looks like Venetian blinds. They're like strung together with cords, and there's like 20 of them. And you're in a room that kind of looks like the room I'm in now. Except incense all over the place burning. It's like you're walking through this smoky haze of beautiful smelling incense. And the guy sits in front of you and he does this. And I'm thinking, okay, I ain't going to tell him nothing. I'm thinking Las Vegas mentalist act, or magic or something. He's going to figure out, maybe they ran my prints through a computer someplace. I don't know. I wasn't a real believer. I'm going skeptic, yes, big time. I believe everything's possible. I just don't believe everybody that says something happened to them or they know the truth. I'm very skeptical about everybody, but not the possibility of everything. So there's a difference. Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. But did it happen to you? Different story. So I'm there, and finally he says, my intuition says this next leaf is yours. Pulls it out, and he goes, your name is 4 letters long. Well, William is not. That's my official name. But I never go by William. I go by Bill, B-I-L-O. So I go, okay, because I never go by William. Unless you're pulled over and the cops got you. You William McDonald, you have a right. What? Anyway, only time they call you William, right? So, but in the real world, it's Bill. So I go, yeah, just yes. And he says, it starts with B. Yes. It's Bill. And he spelled it out, B-I-L-O. I go, yes. And then he goes, and your father's name was, meaning your father's dead. I didn't know my father had died in 1973 because I didn't know my father. I found out in 2000 and something that he'd actually died in 1973. By the time they're doing this reading, I had just found out that he was dead. And they go, and your father's name was exactly the same as yours. Remember, I'm a junior. So therefore, my father was Bill, just like my same name, right? And he goes, and your mother's name is Marcella, that's the name that Indians have a hard time making up. It's very Italian, right? So, and he goes, and your wife's name is Carol. And I'm going, whoa, oh, that's impressive. Okay. And then they talked about her and her college and everything. And then they talked about my children. And then he goes, and he says, and your birth date is March 16th, 1946. He says, but we're unsure about the time. I go, oh, really? Okay. You're human. Well, he says, well, between 1:10 in the morning and maybe 1:25, someplace in there you were born. We're not sure. And we're not sure why we're not sure. It's not clear to us why we're not sure. So we're going to split the difference and make it at this. Well, I was born in the hospital before the doctor got there. To make a long story short, doctor came and asked the nurses when I'd been born. They go, oh, between 110 and 125. Nobody had looked at the clock and marked it. The doctor took it in the middle, and that's what's on the birth certificate. Exactly what they guessed, exactly what the doctor guessed. So that's tiny. I go, wow, they didn't even know how accurate they were.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were confused as much as the doctor was confused, kind of interesting, right? So they made all these things about you write books and you're going to do this and you're a lover of God, et cetera, and your guru is, you know, and mentioned the guru's name and all that stuff. And I'm going, okay. So I pulled out my wallet. I'm getting ready to pay him. I think, well, that's really stupid. I got a reading, great big deal. I knew when I was born, how's this help me, right? So I go to pay him. He goes, no, that's not your reading. That's your index card. We're going to use that now to create your Vedic charts and tell you about your past life, your present life, and the rest, what's happening this, you know, in the future here. I, oh, okay. So 6 hours later, they called me upstairs. Now, he had told these guys, because he sent me there and he had me tell them, he says, you're supposed to ask them for not your most recent life, but the one that ties me into what was happening in my life now, health-wise or whatever. And I was supposed to ask what my worst sin ever was in the last, you know, major lifetimes. What was my worst sin? I go, really? Because I see people coming downstairs that had asked that question. Oh, God, I burned somebody with a stake. I poked somebody's eyes out. I mean, just really terrible stuff, right? I'm going, my worst sin ever. I mean, wow, this heavy, he's doing stuff. So I go up there and they read the present life, and it's like everything up till the day I walked in there, they pretty much had it nailed. Boom, 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 war, this, that, write books, boom, boom. He says, okay, now let's go to a past life that's not your last one, but one that's relevant to why you're here today. And I was having epileptic seizures from the Vietnam War, like about 30, 40 years of it. Since 1967, I got blown up, and then I'd have seizures. So I was dealing with that up till 2008, till I met this guru at the ashram, and they went away. I haven't had one since. So another whole story. But anyway, so he says your last significant lifetime, you were a senior priest on the island nation of Sri Lanka, which is known as that back then, Ceylon or something, Ceylon. And he says, that's where you made your worst sin. He says, you're living a pious life. It was beautiful, didn't do nothing, not hurt anybody. You were the most valuable player they had there. You took care of everything for the guru, all that. But you had a thought. You fell in love with a married woman. You had a thought, you weren't going to carry it any further. It was just the thought that you loved this beautiful woman. And I go, and there's more? No, that's it. You just had a thought. That was your worst sin that lifetime. Well, what was the thought? You just loved her. I go, what? Yeah, but the guru read the mind and said, nope, you're out of here. It cursed your mind. And that's why today you're having trouble with seizures, because he put this curse on your mind. And today, apparently this was going to lift it when I did these pujas, right? I mean, okay, that sounds like a good tale. But I wandered around after the ashram and ended up my last moments of life sunbathing, bathing in the Ganges River. And I come up under the water, and there's this light, and there's Lord Shiva. Now, the only way you can see Lord Shiva, they say, is if you're dead. So I come up and I'm looking at Lord Shiva in this light, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm in a rainbow body, and I'm just sucked right out of the body. I'm gone. I'm just a rainbow. And according to the reading, all this stuff could be malarkey, baloney. I mean, it all could be, who knows, good story. But the good story goes on and says that every lifetime they could look like at, 10, 15 of them, whatever they were looking at there, every single lifetime ended the same way, leaving in a rainbow body. That was my nature. I'd leave in a rainbow body. And then after I was gone a while, I would volunteer, come back, go through all the pain and suffering again, and not know why or who or what I was until towards the end. And then I would leave it in a rainbow body. And that was just an endless journey. It was like a merry-go-round. I go, well, that's really great to believe. I never get, there's no end. Now you don't get out of the cycle. You just keep recycling. I go, okay, great. So called The Great Sacrifice. Makes a wonderful story. If it's true, it's probably not a great story to be living, that you never get out of here. You keep coming back. But I said, okay, great. All right. But in the future readings, there were about 30 or 40 things they told me, of which to this date, everything but one came true.
Wow.
The only thing that didn't come true was the original prediction of my death in 2020. This was in 2010 when I was having it done. And basically it was, if you come to India in 2010, if you travel and come to India in 2020, you never go home. That's 2020 is like the time focus that they're coming after your life, your body. It's not a good time to be alive, right? So, and 2020, the epidemic and everything. And in January 2020, I actually got the flu really bad, 20-something days. And of course, they said you can't have the bad flu because you didn't go to China. Well, in the Bay Area, we had it. San Francisco was there in December, January. Anyway, long story. But they made all these predictions. They made two really funny predictions, which go into the near-death experience coming up. You're going to hear a story like you've never heard anybody ever utter before. It's so out there that even I am amazed by it, because it's like, what? Even I'm going, what? How? What? Because there's nothing normal, even in the metaphysical sense, normal. Like, gay people did, no, nothing. All right. So I'm leaving this reading, and the guy tells me, he says, someday, meaning like the next year, you're going to come to southern India, which I had not planned on going. You're going to go to southern India and go to this temple, and he named it. It's a Shiva temple. When you get there, you're going to notice there's a hill off to the side. It's got a road, a path. You're going to walk up that path 6 to 8 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. Anyway, you're going to meander up this path. I don't know. He wasn't sure how long, but it was going to be 2 to 4 hours. He had no idea. But this thing was going to happen was going to be 6 to 8 hours long, whatever this thing was, my visit. But none of that made any sense to me. He says, and when you get to the top of this hill, there's a clearing. And sitting around a sacred fire, you will see all the rishis. All the rishis. I think there's 18 of them. And you won't ask them any questions because you already know all the answers. Everything you want to know, you already know. I go, huh? What? He says, that's what it says here. It says, you'll know. Okay, great. And then he says, and then one of the things says, one day you're going to be, doing something, and then Babaji or Shiva, like that kind of energy is going to come, and his hand's going to come down and pour fluids, oils and water on your head, and going to bless you with the chanting and stuff. So I'm thinking, okay, great predictions. All right. First off, I wasn't coming back to India the next year. Well, I did. I actually came back the next year, but I had a heart attack and had to leave. I got there. I was going to stay 4 months. I was there just a couple of weeks, and had to go to ER. I had a major heart attack. Ended up flying home, collapsing at Denver airport, Denver, Colorado, and had paramedics, get me revived. And then they actually let me back on an airplane and fly to Sacramento, California. And I'm going, another 2-3 hours of flying. I'm going, really? And wonder why I got blood clots in the lungs? Really? Anyway, so here's where the story starts. So I end up in California. As soon as I get to the hospital, see my doctor. This time I went to the doctor. They go, put me in a wheelchair, put me down to the ER in an emergency room. I was there a few hours. They put me in an intensive care ward room, and I had all the tubes and everything going, and oxygen. And 4 days of just making me stronger so they could operate on me. Normally, when you go in for quadruple bypass surgery in America, because it's all money driven, you go in 4 days, you're out. You go in one day, they operate on you that same day. They let you recover a little bit the next day. The next day, they're getting you to walk and talk and eat and poop. And the fourth day, they're processing you out because that's all the insurance is going to cover, right? 4 days, you're out of here. Oh, This is America. It's not about a vacation. So, okay, I'm already there 4 days. And then the surgery is going to be so complicated, so bad that this hospital I'm in doesn't want to do it. So they get me in an ambulance and they take me across Sacramento to another hospital that specializes in it. Mercy Hospital is run by Catholic Church or something. So I go there and I'm in bed that evening. The next morning, they're going to operate on me. So the next morning, they strip me down. I'm totally naked. I got a thin sheet wrapped around me. I'm taken into an operating room. It's so cold. How cold is it, Bill? It's so cold you can see your breath. I mean, literally, I felt like I could see my breath. If that's real or not, but it was like these guys had jackets under their gowns, their surgical stuff, and they had jackets. I go, and I'm sitting there butt naked, laying on a metal steel table with this little sheet with just barely a few treads, and I'm chilled. I'm just, shaking. And I finally goes, he says, "You got any questions?" He's getting ready to put me under. And I go, "Well, yeah, nobody's told me anything that's going to go on, right? Well, what's happening here, right? What's going on?" And he says, "Well," he says, "Well, I'm gonna," he just put his hand in it. "I'm just gonna rip your chest open here, cut the ribs." And he shows me all the tools and the saws and the big old, lopers that you cut tree branches off. Looked like, I mean, I don't know what he was going to do, but it looked like he was going to cut the ribs. And he's got a spreader, and I'll put a spreader here, and I'm going to hold you open. He says, "I'm going to go in there." He says, "I'm going to stop your heart, and I'm going to stop your lungs. I'm going to cut this artery, and I'm going to hook it up to this blood machine here. It's going to pump blood and oxygen into it. It's a blood lung machine, and it runs, and it pumps oxygen into it and runs it. So you don't have to breathe, and you don't have to have your heart beating." I said, "You mean I'm dead?" He says, "Yeah, we got to kind of kill you first." And I'm going,
Wow.
"What?" I go, "Really?" Bedside manner is just like, I'm going. I mean, you go into an operation, this guy's making jokes like that. And I said, "That's safe?" He says, "Well, as long as we got electricity, you're okay. The machine will run." And he looks at me and he goes, "Well, it's never stopped yet. Come on. We're running good here. Good odds." I said, "Well, what's the odds that I'm going to feel anything?" I said, he says, "Well, when you're on the heart lung machine," he says, "funny you should ask." He said, "But there's a very small percentage of people, just a few, 2, 3%, 5%, maybe just a few. We don't know how many, but a few people, because we cut back on the anesthesia, the level of it when you're on the heart lung machine, because we don't want to kill you. Yeah, they claim they feel something. But don't worry about it. All right, now count backwards." And I go, "Whoa." The next thing I know, boom, I'm black, total darkness. And boom, I am ripped from my body. I am out of my body. I'm gone, but I'm not lightweight, like, floating around like I'm a ghost or a consciousness or spirit. I'm still heavy. I'm standing in the middle of India, and I look off to the side and I see the Shiva temple I was told to go visit. How'd I know it was that? I don't, but it felt like that was it. And it had it was a temple. It was southern India. And I'm going, that's it. That's what I was supposed to be at this year to go visit. Maybe they meant in my dreams. And I'm thinking, well, is this a dream? And I'm looking around. And the first thing I'm thinking of, because I'm standing in a crowd of people and they're bumping into me and I feel the heat of the sun and I feel people breathing and touching me and all that stuff. I'm going, my God, when I last looked at myself on the operating table, I was naked. Do I got any clothes on? So I got clothes on, right? So I feel good. So when I have experience, I'm very modest. So I had clothes on. I'm going, people see me. I see them. I mean, it's like I'm eyeballing people. People, I'm moving out of the way and going through the crowds. And India's got crowds. You're in a crowd. You can feel it. I'm thinking, I'm in a body, but I left my body on that table. Mm. Periodically, I could feel inside the body I was walking around in movement, like hands, instruments, metal, cutting, stuff like that, stuff going on in my chest, right? Mm. Well, you know what? This operation, they told me, was going to be 6 to 8 hours long. I got nothing better to do. I'm here. Let's walk up the hill, right? Let's fantasize this all the way, right? So I start walking up the hill. Boom, boom, boom. In a couple hours, I have no clue. I had no watch, nothing. But I'm walking up this hill. I get to the top, and there's this clearing, And there's a rishi sitting there, some on logs, stumps, rocks, a couple people kind of standing around. These are the funny guys with the funny hair, with the funny beards, and they all like they were going to Jamaica, those little funny little Jamaican beards and hairdos, right? Funny stuff, right? I'm going, okay, this is cool. And I go and I join them, and I felt totally at home, like, yes, I belong here. Yeah, this is my group. I have no problem with this at all, right? And then I see standing over there and across from the fire is this guru, the one that sent me to get my reading. He's got his arms folded and he goes, Be you can skip a few beats, but don't give up heart. And he kept saying that. I'm going, what the heck? What's going on here, right? And he says, don't give up heart. Well, I was going through so much pain and so much suffering. And I mean, I've had like 12 major heart attacks. Like this was like number 10. Anyway, so it was like, I had a lot of things going, cirrhosis of the liver, congestive heart failure, lost my gallbladder, bad kidneys. I mean, all kinds of stuff going on, right? From Vietnam, Agent Orange, and all kinds of stuff. So here he is telling me I got to go back and get well and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, clouds kind of open up. The clouds again. I remember this. I see clouds. Oh, we're going to have a show. Something's going on here, right? Clouds open up, and I hear this beautiful voice, this lady of angel of death or whatever she was. I hear this beautiful voice saying, Bill, just let the heart go. Just give it up. You don't owe anybody anything. You don't have any karmic commitments. Go. Come over. I promise you love, peace, joy, no pain, bliss. Just give up the heart. That's what I'm hearing, right? I go, that's wonderful. And then this guru guy's going, Bill, don't give up heart. I go, oh, what? No, she said, he goes, no, you got to stay. And I go, why? She just promised me love, peace, bliss. I go, the little list, right? I go, what do you promise me? And he goes, more pain than you've ever realized in your entire life. I go, what kind of sales pitch is that? No, he says, or you used magic of yoga and you can meditate and then they drill your teeth down to the nerve or they cut you, whatever they got to do. And you just, yeah, okay, just use yoga. It destroy, no pain, no problem. That's gone. I'm promising you pain. You come back and there's more pain than you've ever had before. And you have to have this pain so you can teach other people how to handle their pain. And I go, that's not much of a sales pitch. I go, no, there's, and he goes, okay, one of the reasons, he kind of does this, and this whole skyline of this whole panorama of clouds open up. And on the clouds, this sea, this ocean of faces, old people, young people, Black people, Asian people, Hispanic, white, even a couple Irishmen, believe it or not, there's a couple Irishmen out there that he meet. But it was all these faces of people, and he's a couple dogs, a few cats, some children, but thousands and thousands of them. And I was told by him, he goes, you don't owe these people nothing. But if you don't come back, they will miss the gift that you give them, whether it's a smile, a healing, inspirational story, save them from suicide, maybe make them laugh. There's something that you're adding to these people's lives that they will not get if you don't come back. But that wasn't enough. I'm thinking, no, I'm coming back, there's gonna be all this pain, right? So next thing you know, I'm going through this battle, and all of a sudden it was like, remember those paddles? Where they're reawakening my heart on the operating table. They're going click on the paddles, right? All of a sudden I go, whoop, and next thing I know, boom, I'm on the hospital table, butt naked, laying on this thin thing with tape closing my eyes off, got a tube down my throat. I'm strapped. I can't talk. And I'm feeling them reattaching things in my chest and, and pulling the ribs together and all this stuff. And I feel everything and I can't talk. And I hear what apparently was the anesthesiologist. He's telling the doctor, the surgeon, he goes, hey, doc, whatever the guy's name was, whatever it was, goes, I think the patient's was feeling everything. I think he's awake. And the doctor goes, hey, it's only another 40 minutes. Just let it go.
Goodness.
And I'm hearing this thinking, 40 minutes. And they're
I know.
stitching up and stapling my chest and wire around my rib cage to hold it together and sewing. And I'm going, in my mind, I'm going, I'm yelling right as loud as I can in my mind, but I can't. I got this thing down my throat. I can't make any emotions. I can't tell with my eyes blinking and going, hey, nothing. And so I'm hearing all the noises of the surgery. I'm feeling every single thing they did the last 40 minutes of the surgery. And I go, holy cow. I go, they were good on their promise. I came back and I got more pain than I ever had in my entire life. So what happens is I kept getting worse and worse. I had 5 blood transfusions. Every time I went to sleep for the next 20 something days, I was still in the hospital, still not making it. Finally, and every time I went to sleep or dozed off, I'd be back on that mountaintop and have going through the same argument all the time with the guru saying, don't skip a beat. You can skip a beat, but don't give up your heart, right? Skip a beat, but don't give up your heart. I kept saying that. So I had that for like days and days and days. And finally, I was going downstairs in the middle of the night and I get a phone call from India and he comes on the phone and says, this is Gurdov from India. And I'm okay, how many Gurdovs do I know, right? And he says, you can skip a few beats, but don't give up heart. I go, what'd you say? He says, you can skip a few beats, but don't give up heart. I go, what? 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 He says, I just sent 100 people up to the temple to pray for you. I told them that I was going to heal you. Now you don't want to embarrass me. And he hung up. I go, what? So I was, God, I can't even just die, man. Now I got this. So that was the ultimate thing. I don't want to embarrass the guy, so I better live, right? So, all right. So now we're getting down to my last day before I leave the hospital. Remember the prediction about getting blessed by Babaji or whatever? I'm laying there and there's like this crystal dome that's covering me. It's like energy on the other side, but it's covering my hospital bed. And I'm laying there. And at the end of the bed is Babaji. Long black hair, shiny skin, young, youthful. No shoes, no shirt, long black hair. And of course, this is my dream, and it's in America. Of course, he has to have Levi's on, but he's got jeans on, right? But he's got bare feet and he's got no shirt. And he's reaching over the bed. Now think about it. The bed's about 7 feet or more long, right? And he's standing at the end of it. And his hand just reaches over and he's touching my head. I mean, I'm looking at that thinking, must be the drugs. I'm delusional, right? But I'm getting this whole blessing by Babaji. And he's pouring stuff on my head and he's chanting in this ancient language. And I'm feeling great. I'm feeling blessed. And I go, well, you know what? If you're going to be delusional, if you're going to be crazy, this is a good way to be crazy, right? So I'm home from the hospital a day at home. And my daughter comes and says, hey, Dad, our old neighbor David went to visit you in the hospital. I said, no, I didn't. She says, oh, yeah, he was there. I said, when was he there? He said, well, he was the day before you left. I said, no, he wasn't. And she goes, yes, he was. He told me what happened. I said, what did he say happened? He says he went into your room and you had some crazy young Indian guy with no shirt on and no shoes on, long black hair, pouring stuff on your head, chanting this crazy stuff. And he thought it was so funny. He started laughing. He didn't want to embarrass you and he left. And then I told her, I go, this is what happened. This is what he saw. So that was kind of like God's way of saying it did happen. It did happen. So anyway, that was the 2 predictions that came true on the death table. And there's a lot more into it. You don't have enough time on this thing, but there were so many side stories, so many pieces of information I've never really talked about publicly because the story turns into a book. It's like I have to cut out that. I can't tell them that. People don't want to know about this. But trust me, when I sit in with these rishis with no questions, there was a lot to have been learned. There was a lot that I knew. It was interesting. But the one thing about those kind of experiences, the longer you're back, the less you remember. You're not meant to remember those. But I know that's there and I could call on when I need that information. So anyway, so that was my 3 near-death experiences. And you asked me what I'm doing, where I'm at, where I'm going. And in some profound way, I'm going to tell you that all these things must have changed me, but not much.
Mm.
I had something happen to which we could talk about at another show, where they can come watch them on my YouTube channel. A rainbow body experience, which was the most life-changing thing that ever happened to me. Most profound, more profound than these.
Mm.
There you go. That's it. That's why it's really hard to talk about 3 near-death experiences on any show. It's like,
Yeah.
at the time. There you go.
All in one go. Oh, well, thank you so much, Bill. Fascinating. I have questions, and then actually you answered so many of my questions. So you're so good at communicating what happened and the full story of what happened. So thank you so much. I do, though, have just a couple that I want to go back and revisit. I greatly appreciate how much you've shared with us, because it's fascinating, and to think all of the things that have happened in your life, and you're only talking about your near-death experiences here. So remembering that you've had all of these other spiritual experiences. I want to go back. When you were 8.5 years old, and you were in the hospital, you talked about being light, feeling light, being physical light, and you got a glimpse. You said it like opened up clouds all around you, and you saw future events. You saw parts of your life that were to come.
Sometimes you're given future possibilities, and the fact that you know these things sometimes changes them.
Yeah.
That's people that make predictions and they're not always right. You wonder why, gee, that guy's pretty good. Why? No. When people know things happening in the future, just by knowing, sometimes you change the events. But in my case, it was in stone,
Yeah.
or as written.
I find that so interesting, because then how do you think free will, because this was my question, was did you see other events? Did you feel like that was permanent, or it could change and be a bit flexible? If you're saying for you that was set in stone, how do you see freedom and choice? And
Believe it or not,
I don't know.
I believe we have free will. Now, here's where this comes in. All the stuff that's locked in stone because of my past karma. That's the life I already created from my energy and how I'm going to live my life. And that's why it transpired and unfolded as it did. You don't think that that's free will, but you manifest absolutely 100% of everything that happens in your life. You manifest it all.
Yeah.
No victims. And you do have control. Oh, this stuff happened to me. I didn't ask this guy to slap me. I didn't ask to go broke. Yes, at some level, all this is earned. There is no good luck. There's no bad luck. There's no good. There's no bad. It's just stuff that happens, but it's all based on your desires, your past actions, what you read, what you think, what you want, uh, what you've done, what you've read, who you associate with, what you've eaten, what you drank. I mean, everything affects your health, body, mind, soul, everything. And if you live thousands of lifetimes, how do you track it? Well, there's a book up there that they track it. You know, the Great Akashic Records. Nothing's forgotten. But it's like, oh, this politician is getting away with lying. He's getting away with it. Nobody gets away with anything. Maybe you don't see him being punished in this lifetime, but nobody gets away with nothing. I don't get hung up over somebody didn't get justice. Nobody gets away with anything.
Yeah.
It will affect them at some time. And unfortunately, when it affects these people, when they get away with things, they don't see the relationship to their actions and their deeds and what happens. So they don't really learn as well. So if something happens to you next lifetime, and you go, why me? I'm a victim, instead of like, oh, I did this to these people. I lied. I did this. I cheated on my wife. This is why it happened. So you
Yeah,
have control.
interesting.
No, you have control. And most people, though, and I say that when they have a reading, like a Nadi palm leaf reading, most people, it's not 100%. It's not even 70%. It's 50, 60%, because you're aware of it. Like in a reading, they tell you, oh, in your 40s, you're 20 years old, you go in, let's say, they go, it looks like in your 50s or your late 40s, you're going to get lung cancer. And all of a sudden you're a smoker. You go, oh, no, I'll stop smoking. You change that. Now you changed everything that happened after that. See, or you're going to get a divorce because of blah, blah, blah. Wait a minute, I better work on my marriage. So just by knowing things as a possible manifestation of another future, another possible dimension, you don't take that road. That road's there. You didn't take that road. You change it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but,
I love
but
that because I do think
yeah,
our lives are made up of our present moments. Absolutely. Every choice we make
yep.
is creating or designing our future. Absolutely. Did you see any parts of your past? Because people often talk about life reviews where they're taken back and they experience their life up until that point when they're having their near-death experience. But yours was all about the future, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, my rainbow body experience, believe it or not, took an hour and something Earth time. But when I was going through the experience, it was over 300,000 years, maybe 300 million. It was just this expanse of time from cosmos and things being created and worlds being sucked in. And I saw both ends of the future and past and now, and it was all going on at the same time. It was really weird. But in personal life, I've had dreams. I actually have had people come to me, Catholic priests, friends in different countries, gurus, people that have said, "Hey, I've dreamt this about you, or I know this about you, or whatever." And what's interesting is I've had about 50 people all hitting the nail on the same character from history, without independent, all having independent knowledge, only what they know. Um, and they don't know about the other stories. Like I had a Catholic priest look for me for 40 some years till he found me to tell me who he was and everything, and looking for me since he was 4 years old. And in 4 years old, he was seeing visions of me looking like I was 45. He's 6 months older than me. So when he was 4, I was 4. But he was seeing me in the future when he met me. And he spent his whole adult lifetime looking for me till he found me.
Yeah.
And gave me a message and everything. That's another whole show you can do on past lifetimes. I had a vision when I was at Normandy Beach in France. I was there the 21st anniversary of D-Day, and saw what I believe was probably me. Nobody famous, nobody rich, a private, just low-ranking soldier, wanted to be a hero, coming off the boat and getting shot and falling, tumbling in the water and drowning in a big pool of blood. I saw that. I cried at the graveyard there because I felt all the pain. And I go, if it wasn't me, I felt that spirit. So, but there's several people from the past that I sensed that, because people said so, and gurus have said so, and readings have said so, that they think I'm some such, so and so. Here's the deal. I know this for a fact. I am who I am. I am who I am now. And I'm not Popeye the Sailor Man, but I am who I am, right? So trying to live on what you think you were in the past is a fool's journey. Not a good idea. It doesn't lead to good places. So know who you are, become the best who you are this lifetime. That's all that counts. Live in the now that you're now in. All these other parallel universes are still going on. You're still existing in the past. You're still existing in the future, whatever it is. It's all happening now. Yeah. But you can only focus on the now you're in. Focus on that.
I love that. Do you think that that's the meaning of this life?
What was that?
Do you think that's the meaning of this life, what we're supposed to be focusing on in this lifetime?
People go crazy trying to figure out what the meaning of this life is, because then you can sit there and you say, why did God create us and give us all these temptations? Why did he invent the mosquito and disease and cancer and wars and the devil? I mean, that's all on him, right? You go crazy on that. To me, this is God's play. This is God's dream. There's nobody else other than God. There is only God. But each of us were given this delusionary ego, and we think we have a personal history. And if we have a personal history, we got a personal story. And if we have personal history and personal story, therefore we got the ego, therefore we got a body of some kind. Physical body, astral body, cosmic body, body of light, rainbow, but you got some kind of body. And just because you get off the earth plane, oh, no, you're not. You're still not there yet. You could be floating for billions of years in space as this great body of light, angelic thing. One day you wake up and go, this is God. Stop playing, wake up. When that happens, you've lost your history. Your history is no more. But nobody wants to give up that history of who they and what they were. They don't give up the personal story. So if you believe in that personal story, and I have a body, you got a body, so therefore we're believers. I can be philosophical as hell, but the fact is I got a body. Therefore I got an ego and I got personal stories. And you've heard some, right? I got stories. That's my history. If you believe that, then you believe in reincarnation, you believe in death, you believe in birth, you believe in heaven, you believe in what hell if you do. I mean, you believe in all these things, and they're all true to you. And you all pain, you believe in pain, you believe in suffering until you don't. And there's no stopwatch on this, there's no time. It's just when you don't want to play anymore, you're home. There's only one. You and I are a reflection of the one. And as long as we see ourselves as separate and see God is there and then there's us, as long as there's separation, you're not awake. It's when you wake up one day and there's no separation. You're truly one with the flower, one with the sky, one with the rock, one with the dog, with the other person. You see the oneness and everything's connected. So you have a samadhi experience, you feel that, but an hour here, a day there, it's got to be forever. That thing, you're one.
I like that. That's a thing also that has come out from all of these people sharing their experiences, is the connection piece, how we are all connected. You're talking about how we are one. We talked earlier about being love, that everything is about love. And I think that all gels it all together. I'm curious to know though, Bill, when you talked about how the third near-death experience, you're on the operating table, they're doing your heart. I can't even imagine the pain of that. That just, that's something else. Sidetracked by that, but you're on the operating table having the surgery. You're physically in a body where you walk up the hill. Do you think, is that, I don't even know how to put this into words, is that like a parallel life, do you think? Do you think you switched into some kind of parallel existence for a while, or what do you think was going on there?
That's an interesting thought. This theory is as good as anything else. I actually looked at it as live, bilateral, being two places at once. What's it? Is that the word I'm looking for? By location? I think because I've had probably 100 that I know of, other experiences where my body's in two places at once, where people report I'm someplace and I have no memory of it, but they report. I've had my local police department in the state of California police say I saved some guy and because he spent all night talking to me and surrendered to the SWAT team. That he was, he just killed somebody, but they held off for 17 hours and he claimed he'd been talking. I was there to counsel him and have him surrender. I was home sleeping.
Whoa,
they called me.
Really?
So I've had this is another whole show. Trust me, it's another whole show. I've had experience where I've actually seen my other body come and get back into my spine. So when I say a body, I mean it locally. I mean that really another body manifesting another body. And if you can manifest one, can you manifest more than one? Can you be in multiple places at multiple times? And the fact that there's very little that I ever remember. Usually it's a death sleep, but I've had people come to my house, pit hitchhiker, and tell my wife and daughter that I saved him the night before in the rain from suicide. I was out there talking to him, and so you name an experience, I've had it. So, and yet the most fantastic experience I ever had was a rainbow body experience, which pales in all these other stories are just meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
The rainbow body experience is the ultimate dessert. It's like, no, this is the accent on purpose. And when I came back from that, what I learned was we are here to love. And in my case, that means love and service, to inspire, to help, not do everything for people, but to inspire them to help themselves. In other words, teach them to pray, teaching them to love, teach them to forgive, instead of just feeding them and telling them what to think and believe. No, teach them to love themselves.
I really like that. When we're talking about near-death experiences, you had the two dates, 29, 59. Do you feel like there's maybe another date coming up, an age date or things for you? And how do you feel about your own death?
My own
Will you
death?
stay dead?
Oh, I know it's coming. I mean, I'm not Elvis. Elvis didn't die, but me, yeah, yeah, it will happen. I don't want to be a spoiler alert to everybody worry, but I do have an expiration date. I've passed it several times,
Yeah.
and I asked about that, and basically I was told that this is the time you were supposed to have gone. Only person that could change it is Babaji or Lord Shiva, because you're needed,
Mm.
not because you get more vacation time, you get a cruise, you get to go to New Zealand, you get to go look at the sheep there, and maybe do some snow skiing. No, none of that. Right? This is about not fun. This is you're staying to work and go through more suffering, more pain, and teach people about suffering and pain.
Yeah.
So I really feel right now I'm on a mission for the next 3 years, traveling the world, teaching people self-healing through self-love and forgiveness.
I think what we need to do is actually get you on for another conversation, because we've tapped on little things, and there were moments when I was like, oh my goodness, I need to go down that pathway, but I'm aware of timing, I'm aware of how things are today. I'd love to talk about parallel universe possibilities, about being in different places. You talked about how you're helping people while you're fast asleep in bed. Love that conversation. So I'm truly grateful for you sharing all of your experiences with us. Reverend Bill McDonald, thank you so, so much.
Blessings.